So the reason I asked Dr. Alice Bloch to be our keynote speaker is not only is she a dear friend of ours, but it's because she performed a dance at Becky and my wedding. The dance was from Gluck's Orfeo and Euridice called Dance of the Blessed Spirits. And so for me, the dance represents the peace and joy that these spirits experienced, and fully understanding that they have been blessed deeply, and therefore they are eagerly offering their blessings with others to love, to heal, and to strengthen. That is what we've tried to achieve through the conference through the goals of PROUD, to build relationships among us, to appreciate each other's gifts, and to share our blessings to strengthen our community. And with that understanding, I'd like to recognize my wife, Becky Miller, who will introduce our keynote speaker.
I'm short. It's been my privilege over a number of years to see our next speaker not only perform, but also teach through dance. And I've learned a lot from her about dance as a system of personal expression and as an expression of understanding and appreciating different cultures. Dr. Alice Bloch has a doctorate in dance history from Temple University and a choreographic MA from UCLA. She's a fifth-generation Isadora Duncan dancer, training with Lori Belalove, Jemsy DeLapp, Ellen Foreman, Meg Brooker, Andrea Seidel, and Julia Levine. In 1991, Alice founded the dance program at Lindenwood University, where she taught until 2006. She's on the boards of the Missouri Dance Organization and the Missouri Alliance for Arts and Education. An arts integration specialist, she uses dance to teach peace, math, science, and literacy. She has provided professional development workshops at COCA, Michigan State University, and the University of Missouri, St. Louis. Alice has led workshops on creativity and healing at the Siteman Center and Hope Lodge. She presented Healing and the Sensuous Body, a workshop combining Isadora Duncan dance and dance movement therapy at the National Dance Education Organization Conference in 2006 and the Isadora Duncan Legacy Project in 2017. And without further introduction, I would like to present Dr. Alice Bloch.
Are we on? We're, oh. And I will be on the stage when I dance, but I like to be close to people. So come on up. So let's see here. I love history. I love teaching history. I think it's fascinating. And people often say, well, why should we learn history? And everyone says, well, so we don't repeat it. I don't think that's worked so far. But as I was thinking about this presentation, and I would like to say that I am so honored to be here. I mean, when I hear the other keynotes, and I mean, seriously, thank you so much, Proud, for inviting me. I've learned so much and met so many extraordinary people. But in any case, so then I began to think of dance history as social emotional learning, of history as social emotional learning. And, oh good, Alan, you've got my slideshow up, thank you very much. And so if you could go forward a few slides, please. Go, go, go. We're gonna come back to some of those things in a minute. Keep further, more. So there's my fault. And stop. Okay, thank you. I know I was rearranging, you know how that goes. Okay, social emotional learning. In one of the sessions that I was in the art session today, we talked about how do we understand each other. the kinesthetic sense, which maybe could be almost like the sixth sense, is the intra, that is within, muscular sense that tells us where our body parts are in relation to each other and how much force to apply. So for instance, would all of you please touch your noses? Brilliant, thank you. And no one poke themselves in the eye or punch themselves out, right? Kinesthetic sense. So we know this. Now, there is a deeper experience. So just notice where you're sitting. Just notice your breathing. Don't need to change anything, right? Okay, so if I now do you feel, used to this, do you feel, does that make you feel like you would like to also take a deep breath? Well, go for it. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. And yeah. So in other words, that reaction that you had is the beginning of kinesthetic empathy. We have those expressions. I know it in my heart, feel it in my guts, I know it in my bones, my knees shake, my heart pounds. All those, sorry. You probably hear me anyways. All except that he can't hear me. All right, I'll be good. Those are all body experiences. And to take it a little more deeply, if I need to put this down for a moment, gently. I'd like you to sense how you respond in your bodies, and I'm going to take a couple of different postures, okay? Did you feel the changes, even though that was very quick? That happens when we encounter the other. The other. That person, there's a lot of you are old enough to know the musical South Pacific. You've got to be carefully taught to hate and fear, okay? The people whose skin is a different shade, the people whose eyes are oddly made, etc., right? And so that, when we're going into building community and communal interactions, that kinesthetic response, that kinetic body response is really important. All knowledge is body knowledge. Light comes into our eyes, sound comes into our ears, etc., 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 etc. If we had more time, I'd say give your hands a little massage because it just feels good. Oh, and she's doing it. Go for it. No, go for it. Welcome to it. Keep breathing, keep breathing. Okay, so now, Isadora Duncan. I am a Duncan dancer, and I'm going to tell you a lot about her. When I taught dance history, I used to start in 1685 in the court of Louis XIV. So, Alan, if you could go ahead here. I hope I'm in the right order. Next slide, please. Nope, keep going. Oh, no, stop. Let's just do this since it's here. Okay, we're going to come. Well, yes, I need this. Sorry. Review your notes. Okay, movement. All movement is energy exerted over time through space, right? So if you say, like, imagine you're stroking, if you like cat, stroke cat. If you like a dog, stroke a dog. I mean, just do it. Just stroke it, right? And there's words to describe that, which is, and you're scritching its ears. I see you're a cat owner. Okay, so that's good because that's a slightly different timing. But this, how could you describe this? What adjective? Stroke is not. Yeah, that's a verb, but gentle, right? But smooth is the other one I'm looking for. So energy can be exerted smoothly or in a sustained manner. And now, just like tap your finger on the table, bop, 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 bop. Or if you're in the mood to do this, punch somebody out, but just not know your neighbor. Go ahead. If you feel like it, go for it. Yeah, there you go. Boom. Percussive. Think percussive instruments, okay? Movement can be sustained and percussive. And also, it can take a deep breath and just kind of feel it at the top. Let's. It suspends and collapses. And then there's also vibratory, which is quick and shaky, and a swing quality. But all those movements also exist in space. So when you did that, when I did my smooth movement, it was in a smooth, straight line also. Just do that again, in a smooth, unbroken line. Or the movements can also be curved, which is also usually, right, curving. You can use both arms, by all means. They can be angular, right? Okay. And yeah, good, love that. And timing can be sustained, slow, quick, and it can also be percussive, right? Boom. And you can have many different tempi in the percussive movement, right? And so it can be kind of like a broken time. Movement also exists in the space that we're in. So we have the space relation to our bodies, but now I am speaking to Terry back there, or sorry, I spaced your name, and hey, thanks, Alan, you know. So I'm relating my movement to the space around me. Dance, of course, has energy, space, and time. And now we come to the cultural and part and dance part of this presentation. When I taught dance history initially, so now let's go forward a couple slides. Let's see where I am here. Go. Keep going. Good, stop. All right, love it. So I usually started, and we'll get to him in a minute, in 1685, when Louis XIV of France started the first professional ballet school. If I were teaching it today, I would start it in 1619, because so much dance is African diaspora dance. Now, look at that movement. I love this. Obviously, a hip-hop crew. Think about those energy, shapes, and time. We know hip-hop is usually quick, but look at the shapes. Notice the angles. Look at the movement. You know it's pretty much going to be percussive. Don't laugh at me. I'm definitely not a hip-hop dancer. Next slide, please. African dance, the root, okay, the mother dance, one might say. One of the things about African dance, when you begin to look at cultural responses and this kind of cultural interaction between dance and all the arts, but when Christopher Columbus got to the Carib Islands, and I think it was 1619, and saw the Carib Indians dance, he could not have seen them as anything but savage, because they were barely dressed, they had strange markings on their bodies, and oh my gosh, they were probably moving their torsos, and they were low to the ground, that dirty, dirty earth, right? Western culture, the basic philosophy, which we're still dealing with, is dualism, which separates mind and body and makes the mind automatically superior. Never mind the emotions, never mind the gut brain, and never mind the fact that we wouldn't be here without our bodies, right? So, African dance, the thing about that is that it is powerful in the torso. It will ripple through the torso, starting from below in the belly and travel through. Most white European descendants couldn't see that as anything but sexual, as invitations, right? And so, walking down the street, you're either, if you're a white woman, eek, and if you're a white man, okay. And I mean, that's just one of those other horrible burdens to carry. So, but the thing about African dance, and when we talk about Isadora, I'm not going to get into it. If you read more about her and you read any of her racist statements, they're truly appalling. She lived from 1877 to 1927, and racism, obviously endemic, but very much blatantly outspoken. So I don't want to go there. Just to warn you, if you happen to read more about her. But when we get to thinking about the nature of African dance and much dance from traditional cultures, and when you look at cultures where the religions have deities, they may have an overall deity, but that manifest themselves in many, many aspects of nature, you tend to get movement that is down earth-centered in gravity. You often get movement that is deep in the torso. And a friend of mine who's lived and danced in Ghana pointed out that much of African dance, this is so beautiful to me, comes from the heart. Like when you bend to the earth, your heart is to the earth. So next slide, please. I just wanted to show you, this is, of course, our traditional culture, Native American peoples, and you have that powwow step, to the earth, and you can see by what they're wearing the different aspects of nature that they are honoring. Next slide, please. And of course, Bharatanatyam, that in itself is a sacred dance in honor of the god Shiva. And again, you have that angularity and very percussive movements. And low to the ground. Isn't it beautiful? And also, by the way, there's so much dance in our community. We've got first-rate African Indian, you know, all kinds of dance that you can see. I just punched myself out with a microphone. All right, next slide, please. Finally, back to Louis XIV. Louis XIV, the Sun King. Louis came to his throne when he was very young, when he was just 14. And he had to establish his authority. And in those days, and I definitely think that we should go back to this, you proved your expertise in court and your ability to be at the top of power by your ability to fight and your ability to dance. And Louis was a wonderful dancer, and he established his power by performing a dance, and here he is as the Sun King, in which the sun defeated the powers of darkness. And he also, you can see what we now call French heels. You know, he was also kind of little guy, and he wore those. They gave him more beautiful calf line. Well, what happened was he eventually became corpulent and decided not to dance and started the first professional dance school. And after that, aristocrats stopped dancing because aristocrats don't work. And as a result, when you get on the scale of the appreciation of the arts, well, these were all the servants and the working people who became the first professional dancers. And certainly in our country, the slaves and slave descendants would dance, and they would do those dances, right? So dance was kind of marginalized as an art form. That's another story. Now, in terms of leading up to Isadora and why she matters. Next slide. So if you heard the phrase the head of state, le tête de roi, the king is the head of state, and all those beautiful, identical dancers ranged around him are the corps de ballet, corpse, the body of the ballet. Literally, they have no identity. You can see they are identical, and the two lead, the soloists in the center, are the sorry, come on back, brain, are royalty. They're royalty, and they are front and center. They are the stars. Okay, next slide. Ballet. Ballet comes with this center line, and part of the illusion of ballet is, of course, lifting up against the force of gravity. Of course, you have to use gravity. Every action physics has an equal and opposite reaction, right? You plie and you jump, right? You bend your knees. The language of ballet is French. But there's this straight line, and there's this kind of Platonic ideal of perfection. And every body, like the corps de ballet, has to look alike. Okay? Sameness is valued, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with Misty Copeland, Breaking Barriers, by becoming a soloist as a white swan. Although there were black ballet companies, of course, many of you know of Miss Catherine Dunham. She studied ballet and danced at a black company, etc. Okay, next slide. When Isadora started dancing in around 1905, this is what ballet looked like. The stage was cluttered. There was nothing like the level of technique that we saw, and choreography, even though this was from Swan Lake, generally was of pretty low level, and they were all story ballets. Next slide. Okay, now back to Isadora herself. Isadora was born in San Francisco and lived a lot out in nature. She was extremely observant, and she became aware that all of us are subject to the force of gravity. She ranted about ballet because they came, you know, this natural element does not exist, and it's an illusion. She also went on about the distortion of beautiful women's bodies in these point shoes. If you've ever seen a ballerina's foot, owie. And in those days, they wore corsets, even still, okay? And so she said gravity, which is always drops in a vertical line, is a powerful and inevitable force. And if you'll take one or both arms and just kind of shrug your shoulders for a second, which feels good anyway, it's relaxing, and then just kind of drop your arms down. Yeah, do it again, just because it feels good. It's relaxing, it's relaxing. Right? You're giving in to the force of gravity, and in our body, in our physiology, all the things that you know you need to do, like work on your pelvic floor and work on your core, those are the anti-gravity muscles. Your glutes are anti-gravity muscles, right? Because here you are, oh, I gotta get up now, right? So keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. It's the number one way to stay sane and healthy as you age. Next slide, please. Okay. Isadora has lived out in nature by the sea, and she began to look at waveforms. She began to see that everything almost in nature, maybe some crystals, moves in arcs, lifting and then giving into the force of gravity, ebbing and flowing, this continual arc, right? And so this became the basis for her technique, this giving in and lifting and waveforms. Also, one other thing, technique, back. Well, I'll figure it out. You won't miss it, I might. So when she started to make work, she started going to her body. And the other thing that she did was dance, as I was saying, she said in one of her speeches, that dance was once the most noble of all the arts. It shall be again. And she looked to dance that it was an essential expression of human experience. I mean, you move from your heart if you're really dancing, and you express all of the emotions, anger and love and fear and on and on and on, right? So how does she do this? How does she do this essentially? And also back to this idea of moving from the heart, the center of dance in our bodies. We have this nerve center called the solar plexus, and it is the center that all the nerves that enliven our vital organs pass through. So when we move from our solar plexus, we're moving from our center, from our deepest connections, and from our heart. Also, she looked at the steps, like ballet is very codified steps. And she said, well, wait a minute. We don't need all those steps. Our bodies can give us some movement. All you need to do is walk, and you can skip, and you can run. And so she took the basics of human movement as the basis for her choreography. Finally, back to the corps de ballet and Louis XIV. Isadora had this insight. Let's see I think we might be at the end here. Let's see, next slide, or is this it? Yeah, more waves, because she lived by the ocean. Okay, thank you, you can take that. Oh, yeah, thank you, Alan, thank you, Brain. She was an educator, that's the other thing. She felt that all children should have free education in beautiful surroundings with healthy food and all the arts, and we could heal society that way. Right? Right. And so she founded schools, and when Becky said that I'm a fifth-generation Duncan dancer, my teachers were trained. Isadora adopted some of her students, and then they trained the oldest generation of teachers I studied with, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a living tradition. Next slide. What do we got? Yes, artists loved her. And I'm glad, I think we're going to end with that slide because it's a little bit like the dances that I'm going to do for you now. So there are 3 dances, and they are choreographed around 1920. And at that time, which all of you in this room know history, a lot of the young people don't know history, this was, of course, the Russian Revolution, and maybe the 2 years at the beginning of the Russian Revolution when it was still idealistic. And the music is by the composer Scriabin, and there are 3 dances, and they just seemed right. The first one I want to explain to you, and the second 2 I'll give you the titles, and that will be self-explanatory. The first dance is called The Crossings. Second here, I'm really stiffening up. The Crossing. And this may be apocryphal, but the story goes that when Isadora was in Russia, in the winter, she was on a train, and there was a peasant walking across a snowy field, and he was shot. Off mic? No, I want it off because I'm going to dance now. And oh, I'm sorry, and the second dance is Mother, and the third dance is Revolutionary. And I need just a minute to get my body working again. The mature dancer, you know. Any questions? Oh, thank you. Are any thoughts or any comments? Yes, ma'am. Oh, that is revolutionary. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, yes. Of what? I'm sorry? Oh, interesting. No, I mean, Isadora actually was dancing. There's about 30 seconds of her being filmed. She didn't trust the camera. So yes, the movies were coming in just at that time. But this was created in Russia, and she may or may not, I mean, there's no record of if she saw the cinema or not. I realized the important thing that I had to say about her, which is the real reason, besides just the dances as they are, that she's so appropriate for the Proud Conference. I think I said that she believed the dance of no two persons should be alike, right? Every body is a different body. And she made this statement, even though until she had her young dancers with her, and she actually, she said, I always danced the chorus. I never once danced a solo. And she was inspired by the sacred Greek chorus, the sacred chorus of the Greek theater, in which, even though we know that, Athenian Greece has its flaws as a democracy, but still in the sacred dances, there may have been women's and men's dances, but everybody was dancing, regardless of their size, regardless of their age. Everyone was dancing. And so to me, I think that the Proud Conference, you're so amazing because you want to get everybody dancing.